Mr. Cully, you ready? All right, we will reconvene the February 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is a Caroline County Board of Supervisors work session, budget work session. Mr. Cully, you ready? Topic number one is discussion of public safety pay plan. And Mr. Cully, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm basically ready, not all the way ready. How's that? So we're ready to go with the public safety plan, and Alan's going to give us an overview of the work that we've done on that.
February 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is a Caroline County Board of Supervisors work session, budget work session. Mr. Cully, you ready? Topic number one is discussion of public safety pay plan. And Mr. Cully, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm basically ready, not all the way ready. How's that? So we're ready to go with the public safety plan, and Alan's going to give us an overview of the work that we've done on that.
February 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is a Caroline County Board of Supervisors work session, budget work session. Kelly, you ready? Topic number one is discussion of public safety pay plan. And Mr. Cully, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm basically ready, not all the way ready. How's that? So we're ready to go with the public safety plan, and Alan's going to give us an overview of the work that we've done on that. You've got the Zoom meeting so that you'll be able to see the presentations that come up on the presentations behind you. All right, we think we got it. Wonderful. Where was I? So we've put right many months in study of public safety, and all of you know that adjoining counties around us have raised their public safety pay scales significantly over the last couple of years. The sheriff's been here. I want to say numerous times, but he's been here a few times explaining to you the issues that he's had with even neighboring counties like King George being their salaries so much higher than ours. So Alan's got the data on that. I will tell you this is going to be shocking, but the numbers are what the numbers are, and so we'll be glad to explain the methodology that we put into it. It's Tamika and Alan have spent a lot of time working on it. I just get to do the high-level summary stuff and figure out what the overall numbers, how they present. But for the basic of where we started, the counties we looked at, and then the scale we put together for public safety, Mr. Parton will give you that overview.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Mr. Cully said, staff is proposing a new public safety plan that would cover sworn law enforcement personnel in the sheriff's office, as well as field personnel plus the deputy chief and the fire EMS chief in the Department of Fire and Rescue. The purpose of the proposed plan is twofold. One, it would create a new public safety pay scale with higher starting salaries that we think would allow the county to effectively compete for new employees. And second, it would place existing employees on the new scale with appropriate pay increases to avoid pay compression with newly hired employees and reward longevity. So to build the proposed new pay scale, we looked at salaries from localities that we believe represent the market that we're competing in. And in other words, the localities that we tend to lose public safety employees the most, and some of that information is captured in attachment 1 before you. So the comparison localities we used were King George, Spotsylvania, Stafford, Hanover, Henrico, and the city of Fredericksburg. And attachment 2 shows you some of the pay comparisons from those localities. From reviewing that data, we determined the average starting salary for a deputy sheriff in the comparison localities is approximately $46,341. And in comparison, the current Caroline minimum for deputy sheriff is $40,262. So this benchmark, again, I'm referring to $46,341 as a starting salary for the deputy sheriff, was used to create a grade PS1 on a proposed new scale. And from that base, we built an entirely new separate pay scale with grades increasing by 5% up to grade PS18. In addition, 25 steps were created for each grade with a 2% increase per step. So then all other existing positions were placed on the appropriate grade of the proposed new scale, and decisions on where to place those positions were based on a combination of the average starting salary in the comparison localities and also input from Sheriff Lippa and Chief Loftus on the proper grade separation between positions. There are a few anomalies on the scale I wanted to point out. You'll notice there's a PS0 grade, and that is to accommodate recruits in both the Sheriff's Office and Fire and Rescue that we've recruited them, but they don't have the skills to operate in the field on their own yet, so they would be placed there at a lower salary than PS1. There are also a few what we call plus grades that have increases that are smaller than 5%. I think they're 2 to 3%, and that is for fire rescue career ladder steps. So the end result is the public safety plan that is before you as attachment 3, and if this is approved, we believe it would provide a new pay scale that would make the county much more competitive in hiring new employees, the Sheriff's Office and the Department of Fire and Rescue. Of course, the second step in the process is to place existing employees on the proposed new scale. To do that, we place them on the appropriate grade at the step corresponding to their years of service with the county in their current position. For example, if they have 5 years of service with Caroline, bless you, in their current position, they are placed at step 5 of the grade of the new scale, and this would then become their new salary as of the effective date of implementation if it's approved. We did propose capping salaries above the level of lieutenant in fire and rescue and sergeant in the Sheriff's Office at $8,000. $8,000 would be the maximum increase for positions above those levels. That is in an attempt to reduce the cost of implementation. I will note that those positions are on the same grade of the new scale. There is no sergeant rank in fire and rescue. So the plan is designed for public safety employees, and this is important, to receive a step increase each year going forward in addition to a COLA. That would avoid compression with new hires and reward employees for remaining with the county. So once you implement this, we would ask that each year you give a step increase for each year of service. So to sum up, the benefits we see from the proposed new plan are: 1, it would make the county significantly more competitive in finding quality candidates to fill vacancies in the Sheriff's Office and in the Department of Fire and Rescue. Consistent step increases would encourage existing and future employees to remain with the county. And with consistent step increases in place for existing employees, this is also important, the Sheriff's Office and Fire and Rescue could then begin hiring new employees with experience in other localities at something other than the minimum without worrying about pay compression with the existing employees. And that obviously largely expands your pool of potential candidates. The plan, we believe, also makes strides toward a career ladder to allow employees to see a reward for increasing their skills and remaining in Caroline. So that is a broad introduction. Kind of ran out of time. We'll be sending out a memo that basically details the things that I just said, give you time to look at that and comprehend it. It's a lot to try to take in tonight, and we certainly don't expect a decision tonight, but that gives you an overview of how we arrived at what you have in front of you. For the cost of implementation, I turn it over to Mr. Culley and Tamika Smith.
Might make that white background of that Excel sheet look better. Might be able to read it. The top set of grades, so the top chart is fire and rescue. I kind of hid that, but when I kind of enlarged it, so that dropped off. But you'll see, and what's important sort of to see on these is how many employees are in each grade and where the totals are going. So the salary increases for the Department of Fire and Rescue proposed to put everybody on the scale is $170,108.17. But then you've got FICA and VRS benefits and group life. So your actual total is $197,903.85. I need a hat. And but you'll see that 21% is going to grade 1. And I don't have that in front of me, but I think that's in Chief Speak Up. That's basic firefighter EMT. And so then you've got 17 of those. And then you've got 5 of the next level up, grade 2. And then you've got 10 grade 3, which are paramedics. And so you'll see 23, 14, and 21% of the total are going to those people working in the field. And then you've got a grade 5, about 8.9%, and grade 6, there's 4 of those, so those must be lieutenants. And then you've got a grade 6 where you've got 1 person, a grade 7, 1 person, a grade 8, 2, grade 10 is captain, grade 15 is deputy chief, and grade 18 is chief. So you'll see the percentages of the money of the total that we're recommending is going to the people in the field, not to management. And I think that's an important note to understand. And we did cap, as we said, above grade 6. So while some of those people above grade 6 would have gotten a larger increase than $8,000, we felt that we needed to cap that. We couldn't because of their years' experience. So part of that is we've got some people that have been here a long time, and so it pushes, if you don't put that cap in and you put them on the end of the scale, it pushes it up pretty hard. And you don't have to do that, and we've got somewhere in the spreadsheet the uncapped amount, and it's 50, 100, 50,000, I can't remember. I've been looking at so many numbers, they all run together, but versus 560. Yeah, so it's about 30,000 that we've capped out of the top. We could have capped everybody 8,000, but that would have hit a lot of the deputies, a lot of the people at the bottom that have been here a long time would have gotten capped as well. So we didn't do that. We capped it grade 6. So if you move down on the chart, that's the sheriff's office, the SROs, and animal control. Those are all the sworn personnel. And keep in mind, these are sworn personnel. This doesn't have anything to do with the office personnel. So you've got 30 employees in grade 1. Those are deputies, and they're getting 60.21% of the sheriff's money.
Mr. Cully, can we slide that chart? It's all the same on our screen as well. Yep. Oh, there's no more down there. Okay. Thank you.
That was correct. they have less grades. So it's 30 employees. The total sheriff's amounts $386,260.66 of increases, and then when you add on the benefits, it works out to $449,375. But the important part here again is 270,000 of that 386, or that of that 449, 270,000 with benefits is going to the deputies on grade 1. And those are the folks that have sort of gotten all compressed as people have hired in, that there's not a lot of separation in their salaries. Plus that base salary is going up about $6,000, which is still not the highest by any stretch in the region as you look through that data, and basically puts us somewhat on par with King George, who will probably go up. And then you see then there's with grade 4, there's 7 employees and 9 employees in grade 5, and they work their way on down. But the bulk of the money, obviously grade 8, grade 11, and grade 16, which are lieutenants, captains, and the major, there's 1, 2 captains, and 4 lieutenants, are taking the very little bit of the overall amount of that funding. So the grand total for it is, just for the increases, is $556,000, I think. I think back to my computer, but overall with benefits, $647,279.50. So I know it's a large number, but we really do believe that looking at the history of where people are going, fire and rescue, we train a lot of folks. They stay a few years. We don't have hardly, the bulk of our department is a couple of years and younger. Yeah, 70%. And since the chief and I have been here, we've had 53 people turn over out of a department of 50-some. So not quite 50-some, 45. Out of 45 people, 53 have turned over. And it's not that they hate working here, but there's career advancement and more money. And you can live in Caroline and work in Spotsylvania, Stafford. We have people that work in Fairfax. Fire and rescue is like nursing. You got 24-hour shifts. You work a shift. You work a few shifts a month. You know, it's not like folks that have to work 5 days a week where commute's a real pain. So it's easy for both law enforcement. In my neighborhood alone, there's at least 1 Hanover and 3 or 4 Spotsylvania deputies that live there. No Carolina. But in and out over the years, come and go of different deputies. So it's easy to live in Caroline and work these public safety jobs in other jurisdictions. So we feel it's important to be competitive with the north-south corridor. Yes, we could look to Essex and King and Queen, New Kent, places, and find some lower salaries. My old county of Middlesex, they're paying in the 30s, but the sheriff's at their board doing the same thing. We got to have more money. I can't hire anybody for $35,000. They just won't come do this job. And you have to also understand the climate that hiring law enforcement is in the last year. So with the freedom of movement amongst public and safety employees, the hiring that goes on with fire, especially ALS, it is a very difficult. We hire them, we train them, and then they can go make significant more money in other jurisdictions. And we don't even include the federal. When you just right here in AP Hill, the starting salary is 80, 75 something for firefighter. We didn't include those type of things, where we also have people that are able to go to Fort Belvoir and places like that. So be glad to answer any questions. I have some more.
Thank you, Mr. Cully. Mr. Black?
Mr. Cully, I just have a few questions. On the, I think it was attachment 3, which is the really long one here. How do the pay grade on the public safety, so PS1, PS2, PS3, how do you go up from PS1 to PS2? Just out of curiosity.
You have to get promoted.
Yeah, it's a promotion thing?
Right. Yeah, so there's a chart that you should have So PS1 is a deputy sheriff, a court security officer, animal control, and a firefighter EMT. So all those are PS1s. And so then a PS2 is a
Okay.
firefighter
Okay.
intermediate, a
I
firefighter
didn't see this one yet. Thank
EMT,
you.
Tech 2. So the next thing in the sheriff's office is a PS3, which is a dispatch supervisor, which is also a firefighter, paramedic, firefighter, intermediate, Tech 2. So then you got PS4 as a master deputy, and it's a firefighter, paramedic, Tech 2. So that's all on attachment 3.
Okay. All right.
Where do the dispatchers start on this scale? Because I don't see them listed.
We didn't include dispatchers that not sworn,
Okay.
and dispatch completely. The supervisor was in, and I said, if we're not gonna do the dispatchers, I'm not doing the supervisor, so we took the supervisor route for right now.
Okay,
Sheriff wasn't happy about it, but we had to start somewhere.
got it.
The dispatchers are not in.
Mr. Tom,
PS3 is a senior deputy as well. That's an added one the sheriff added Monday.
Mr. Thomas.
A few quick questions, Mr. Cully. Did we include all positions in the calculations? In other words, the open positions that each department has, they're all included in the calculation?
Yes, those are the total positions approved by the board in there, so 45 and 53. That's it's not an employee in every one of those right now, because the sheriff's office is down 11.
Right, and that's what I wanted to make sure of, is we had money in there for those positions once they
We
get
do.
hired.
We do.
Okay, the next question is, I never had any data for fire and rescue, but we had data for the sheriff's folks before. You use starting salary to calculate and not their actual average salary, right?
I don't follow the question exactly.
The attachment 2 that we got from Mr. Parton,
Uh-huh.
it has Caroline minimums. I guess I take it that's the starting salary,
Correct. If it's 46 something or other.
4262.
The current salary is 40,000 for deputy, yes.
Well, what I'm saying is, does this sheet say what the minimum starting salary is? And that's what all our increases are based on, that minimum starting salary, and not the actual starting salary, not the actual salaries we have. In other words,
I think so.
when we did data before, this says a deputy sheriff's salary is 40,262, that's the minimum.
Correct.
When we did salaries, at the end of last year, when the sheriff, we were trying to get a raise for his folks, we had an average salary for a deputy of 42,921. So that was the actual employees, and that's my point. Are we saying?
Starting salary in our pay plan. We're looking at a pay plan to pay plan, not with an average of everybody that may be a deputy right now.
All right, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So somebody right now that's making 42,000 will not get the 8,000, or will get a.
We'll go on the scale. Every person is different based on their salary. Sorry.
Oh.
Every person is different based on where they are today in their years of service. So somebody say that's making 33,000 and have been here 6 years, they're gonna move way up, because they're gonna get the deputy, and then they're gonna go across the ticks, across to the right of the scale. But if you're making 40,000 and you've been here a year, you're not going anywhere. You've been here, you're making 41 or 40, the starting pay, and been here 3 years, you're going up a little bit. So everybody's going up based on years of, they've been with the county.
Okay, you had a spreadsheet. I think you and I had shared a spreadsheet last year when we were trying to get the sheriff raises. Can you relate that spreadsheet to this at a later time? You don't have to do it right now. Okay, and the last one is Mr. Parton said every year we would do a step increase.
We would encourage the board to move the employees at least a step, even if you didn't do a COLA, or otherwise the whole, because what we're creating is what other jurisdictions have.
Yeah, so it keeps going. My
The
question
schools
is,
have the same thing. So
Yeah,
you're on this,
but my question is, how much does that step cost?
We know that. I just can't remember the number.
$129,314
And that would increase
each year.
129,
2% of whatever
314?
I'm sorry?
129, 314 is what you
Yes,
said?
sir.
And that 129, 314, the next year will be a little higher than 129?
Yes, sir.
Because
it
it's
will be
a-
2% on.
It's a factor, and then it's like compound interest, and it
Yes.
keeps multiplying? Okay. That was all I had. Thank you.
But you can't calculate that out because people will come and go as well, so you'll have some more people starting at the bottom. But
No,
yeah.
it's just a ballpark number for future planning. That's all
Correct.
it is.
But it is, I think it's important if you, I mean, we could have come back and said, and the sheriff, I'm speaking, he's been after $8,000 across the board for everybody. Seemed unreasonable till we looked at the data, and that's what I kept telling him, we gotta look at the data. But that doesn't fix the growth opportunities that a scale does with all right, if you get, you can be promoted to this. Now, the big part of what we have in fire and rescue is that we're small and there's nowhere to go to be promoted anywhere. And so if we have additional steps and additional, hey, if you get this, you can move up, you know, 1% or 2% in a different little group because you've gotten some, it gives some people some career growth, and hopefully will help keep people that want to work here longer, and not have to go, well, geez, I could be making this, or I could be a lieutenant over here, or that type of thing. So the scale provides what we would like to think of as more of an encouragement for employees to stay with us in these jobs that are you can just fit into in other jurisdictions.
Go ahead, Mr. Seal.
I was just gonna say, what is the EMS side gonna be in terms of an annual increase?
That's total.
So that's
the total.
both
That is
fire
total
and
for the scale.
rescue?
Yes, that's the total for the scale.
Okay, that,
Mr.
Go for it.
Mr. Cully, was there any thought given to, when that's one of my pet peeves, when a person goes into the academy at a lower salary and then comes out and graduates from the academy, was there any thought to given that, having something available in terms of graduation money to bring that person?
Well, they would go, right now they would, if they haven't been to the academy, they would be brought on the scale at PS0,
Right.
which is 10%, I think 10% lower than the starting salary. And so when they graduate from the academy and are released to the road and can actually perform the work of a road deputy, then they would move up to PS1.
PS1, right.
And the
which
same
is-
for a fire rescue recruit, if we were to get somebody that was not trained and hadn't been precepted to where they could actually work by themselves with a crew, they would also be able to use that recruit salary.
Which is about $4,200 different from a PS
Correct.
0
And
to a PS1.
Yeah, 10%, correct. But it also, the scale gives us the ability for somebody to come in and what we found other counties do is they give about a 50% credit of years of service. So if you've got somebody that wanted to come here with 6 years of service, you could give them 3 ticks across the grid and not start them at the base pay. We haven't developed all those policies yet, but it gives you that flexibility because you know what it is and you have a justification. So when somebody comes here and gets put at this place, the people around them that say, wait a minute, you're paying them more than me. Yeah, but they got more experience than you do. And that's why we put them on the scale at the step we did. So I think it offers a lot more flexibility than somebody comes here that's got 5, 6, 8, 10 years of experience. And the sheriff says, we got to start at the bottom. And we're already low.
Is this thing years?
So
This is years?
yeah. So a PS1 with 8 years of service is $53,231. Then a PS4 with 1 year of service. How would that happen? That you'd have a PS4.
That's a master deputy at a PS4. And you're probably not gonna have a master deputy
Yeah, I wouldn't, I was gonna
down
say, I
at
wouldn't.
the step
Right.
one, step two, step three. And we've talked internally about blocking out different grades, because you're not gonna hire a fire chief at PS 18,
Right.
grade one.
One, right.
I mean, it's just
So-
not gonna happen. So you block out some of those, lower ones, but you leave it for negotiation purposes too, because you may find a fire chief that's really talented, only been doing it 5 years, you just have to leave that. But the master deputies are 4. We don't have anybody master deputy. We got 7. We don't have anybody down at only 2 or 3 steps. They're gonna be put on the scale that steps higher than that.
Yeah, the scale just looks, I think it needs some adjustment to me to make, that it really makes sense in terms of years of
you have to-
service and position of hiring.
I don't know, you're gonna have to explain
Well,
what
you
you mean.
just said that you wouldn't have a master sergeant with 1 year experience,
You won't.
but yet it's here.
We could, maybe it would help to black out the steps where it wouldn't be applicable,
To that,
so that it doesn't look like a
Doesn't
master
appear.
deputy at one, I see what you're saying. But if we blacked out, there'd be a stair step across some of the stuff for blacking.
Correct, it blacks out to the right as
Yeah,
you go
right.
up the scale, correct.
right.
And you're
I
not
think
gonna
that
have
would
a
look more
captain in
reasonable.
the first year.
You're looking at
And-
all the numbers instead of
Yes.
what's realistic.
Absolutely.
I see what you're saying.
But you still gotta have some, you don't wanna take them off, because suppose you wanted to hire from out of the area a captain, and he had 10 years' experience, but you gotta put him on if you adopt
That's true.
a 2-for-1, half rule, then he's going on at step 5. Where if he worked here, he's probably gonna have worked longer than that to be captain. You just don't know.
But it wouldn't be one.
It could be, you could give it, you could negotiate it to 1.
Mr.
You
Underwood,
could negotiate it to 1.
Mr. Underwood, if I could, please. The master deputy program, we won't hire anyone in that category because it's set up by the state. It is a competitive process, and you had to have so many requirements. The same on the fire chief side of it too. We're more than happy to block out those because they don't apply. I think they just put it in there so you saw everything across the board. So it's
Yeah.
competitive.
I just want to look.
And
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I just wanted it to make sense.
And the other thing, if somebody's internal and gets a promotion, they may drop down to a lower grade. So you go from a 1 to a 4 or 1 to a 5. Your years of service are going to go backwards. So a lot of counties then drop back in steps as well. So you drop back to the left a couple of steps, I think is what we found. And Tamika can explain that.
Put something in place that says, for promotion, you get X percentage of an increase, so that you don't have a situation where you have someone who's been here a long time in one position, but then they get a promotion after being there so many years, only to find that their pay is barely above what they were making before. So you may have to put some percentage increase minimum there that goes along with each level of promotion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll give you an example based on what you just said. So if you have a deputy who has 8 years of experience, so he's a PS1
Mm-hmm.
at a step 8,
Yes.
the $53,231.24. If he were to get promoted to a master deputy,
Mm-hmm.
PS4, he would not go back to a step 1. He would drop down to the PS4, but we take away one of the steps, moving him to a PS4 at a step 7 is what some of the other localities do.
Gotcha. Okay. Now,
So he'd
which
go to
makes
the
sense.
60,000.
Right,
Yes,
which
sir.
makes sense then. But, okay.
So, but is that gonna be a policy though?
Yes, that would be policy. We would write up policies that the board would adopt with all of it. We had to show you the numbers first we got there. But yeah, so that's why you don't want to block them all off, because you don't know where somebody might be in their year and have to drop back a year. So it's sort of there to offer flexibility at any given time.
Mr. Forehand, you have any, Mr. Black, I'm sorry.
Mr. Colley? Mr. Colley?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question, like I mean, as far as, like, in the teaching world, as far as the steps are concerned, like, a lot of times if someone who's, been teaching a long time, a school system will say, well, you know, like, teaching 25 years, we'll cap you at 15 years experience coming over. As far as and I don't know how this works in the fire rescue world or the deputies world and so forth, is this a common practice to, with other localities to say, all right, we're going to give you half credit? So if someone's been a sheriff or a deputy or a firefighter for 10 years, is it a common practice to go half on the experience?
That seems to be common practice in the sheriff's office. I'll let the chief speak to what's in the fire service.
Yeah, I mean, today, everything is going to the steps. So Stafford has steps, Spotsylvania has steps, Hanover is putting steps in place. I talked to King George today, they want to go to steps. The reason is no one can be competitive without using that 50% modifier for people coming in the door. The idea that you have a minimum, a midpoint, and a high band today is no longer competitive. Right. What we're seeing is 20 years ago, Northern Virginia was in the north. Today, Northern Virginia is at our north border with Stafford and Spotsylvania, and at our south border with Henrico and Hanover. And same thing with other localities. That pay is at our door. So we're competing with those pay systems, right. And we need to change to this paradigm because that's what everybody else is going to.
I had no problem. I was just wondering, as far as, like,
50% is standard.
Okay, because a lot of times, like, as a teacher, they give you the 100, like, you get the 10 years. I mean, there might be difference in pay.
There's got to be some reward for staying in your locality, and that is.
And I'm fine with that. I was just kind of curious if that was a common practice, and that's all I was asking.
For the localities we looked at, 50% was the.
All right, thank you.
Before the chief goes, Chief, is that 50% fixed or is that negotiable?
I think everything's negotiable on the front end. We would develop a policy and then it would become policy for us to talk about. Okay. Other localities look at other things, right? So experience is one piece that we look at for negotiation, and I'll pick on Spotsylvania because they're to our north. If you come in with a bunch of other certifications, you come in with a college degree, or you come in with some other things, they pay you for those things in addition to. So Spotsy gives you another $500 on whatever salary you negotiate if you have an associate's, $1,000 if you have a bachelor's, $1,500 if you have a master's. If you speak another language, they give you another $1,000. So they're paying, in addition to the salary that's published, they're paying this per diem for different skill sets.
Yeah, my thought is that 5 years in Fairfax is different than 5 years in Bath County or somewhere else. So
it's negotiable. Yeah. But again, it would be based on the policy we establish at that time.
Mr. Forehand, you have any comment, question?
Actually, it's for both chief and sheriff. Out of state, does that have any impact on this? Someone coming from a different state?
No, because they are a little bit different, but I know that the board members, and I thank you, and I have to say this because I want to commend the staff from Ms. Tamika. I've got to say ladies first, Ms. Tamika, Mr. Cully, and Mr. Parton. We've heard all that, and I think that was one of the questions that you had before about giving credit. And
yes.
The chief, all of us, we agree with that. And now, again, it's something that I wanted to tell you all that it helps us now. 10 years, we'll give them 5 to where it is.
Yeah, I could see it definitely be a recruiting help. The out-of-state question, for
the fire service, we've heard ourselves, everything is a national certification. So anyone coming out of state is certified just the same as anyone in state. So you're a national EMT registered now, right, and you're a national firefighter. So no,
okay,
that would not change.
But I just hadn't caught up because it didn't used to be that way. So. Yeah.
Mr. Black, you have another question?
Mr. Cully?
Doesn't apply to the sheriff's office. That's Virginia only.
One other question, because, and as far as what is the, like, how often will we have to go back and revisit this? In other words, Like we just did a salary study, and then 2017. Now we're back. 3-4 years later.
Well,
How often?
That depends on what the region does. So if we can implement this and then give the step increase, maybe a COLA, we will stay somewhat with the region unless Spotsy or Stafford or whichever one decides they're going to go up by some astronomical amount, because that's what happened this time. It was suddenly, it was like
understand.
8.
We understand, and that's
So I can't tell you that standing here that you'll never have to do a study of this region again.
And that's the thing that makes it difficult for us here, is the fact that, we are not in the same, I know we have, and I'm okay with a scale. I think that you guys did a great job on it, but, Spotsy goes up today, and oh, look what Caroline just did, and they say, oh, we're going to give everyone $10,000, and Hanover does the same thing. We're back here a year later, and it's just like, we
well,
can't
eventually
compete. We're not the New York Yankees with the Kansas City
I don't
Royals.
think personally Spotsy's going to go up because Caroline went up. They seem to be driven by Prince William, Fairfax, and Arlington, and the places to the north. So King George might adjust theirs, but we're not going up higher than any of them.
Right.
We're not proposing to go up higher than anybody really, other than the fringes, to the east or the west, to give us some ability to recruit from some of those smaller jurisdictions. But we're still going to have to compete with King George, Spotsy, Fredericksburg, Stafford, Hanover, Henrico, all those folks, and be a little bit, paying a little bit less.
We did hire a deputy recently from Stafford, so I don't know what, Sheriff, I was saying, we recently did hire a deputy from Stafford. And you don't have to tell his personal story, but there must be something that made him come from Stafford to Caroline, or whether it's family connection or whatever.
Oh, yes, yes. No, he is here. The person that, from Stafford, was actually Spotsylvania first. I remember the young man when he graduated, I was trying to get him to come to Caroline, but he went Spotsy first, and then when everyone went up, he left and went to Stafford.
Right.
And when he saw that, and his father told him, it's not all about money, he didn't like the way Stafford treated him. He actually came to Bowling Green and worked for them part-time until we had an opening. So that's how he came on board with us.
Yeah, I was saying, you don't have to tell the story, but
Well,
I had
lives,
a long conversation with him to understand why he left there and came down here. So.
And he lives in Caroline now.
Yeah,
he's actually from
come
Spotsy.
down occasionally.
The reality, well, two realities. One is that the piece of pie that's called revenue from taxpayers is only going to be what it's going to be, regardless of what Fairfax does or Loudoun County does. The reality is that we work within our own means, and I think that's what's important. And I recognize that we're always going to be competing, but salary plays a role in how long people stay in their employment. But many of the studies say there are many other things that go along with whether you stay employed with a certain employer or not. And among the top 5 is not salary. I'm okay with what we're doing. I think from my perspective is that we've looked at the people who are in the trenches, and the bulk of funds for this study has gone to the people who are on the road, meeting with citizens, taking care of the day-to-day issue. I think that's a big plus. I think you guys did an outstanding job there. So those are the people who are doing the grunt work, I would call it. And we certainly recognize that it is tough there. So I really appreciate what you've done with both fire and rescue and the sheriff's office in terms of looking at where that money would be spent. And I certainly appreciate that. I think staff did an outstanding job, so my hat's off to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other
I feel like you had to. If you just looked at the total, you wouldn't really know. You had to really look at it by grade to be able to see that.
Yeah.
All right, you want to move on to some additional information, sort of with this included?
What's your question? Any other questions from the board regarding the public safety, salary plan?
It seems like what he put up, the deputies are getting close to $8,000. Well, that's why I asked him to check what we had before, because when we talked about it last year, $8,000 was going to be $400,000 for just them and just the deputies. So, but they're also getting money, so I don't know how it adds up to just that little. Yeah, they had 30. We had 25. You remember the spreadsheet we had when we did the work session? It came out to 214 for 4,000, so it would have been 428 for 8,000. But that's only. Only half the deputies are comp board.
Right. Now, I'm getting ready, I don't have that breakdown of how much revenue we'll get, but I'll have that soon. But remember, even deputies are only funded at 50%. Only the constitutional officers are funded at 100% of the comp board salary. And then the deputies are funded at the state deputy salary, 50%, but our deputies are already above that with the 40,000. I think the comp board is at, for a deputy, what, 36, something like that. So you're getting 50% of whatever the comp board salary is, not 50% of our starting pay. But anyway, it's still revenue, so we do get some revenue, and that's what I wanted to branch into now, is that the General Assembly adopted the budget last Thursday, so we're just trying to wrap this up and then now wrapped into what's been mandated and what those numbers look like. So with that, you kind of got to factor the public safety increase and not factor the public safety increase, just kind of take a look at this. But the cost of the 5% mandated increase. Now, I have not broken down the mandated increase all the way down. So like in the treasurer's office, it's the treasurer and 2 or 3 people or 4, and there's 10 people. I didn't figure the board would want to say, all right, well, you're getting 5% because you're working the counter, but you work for the comp board, but you're working the counter, doing the same job, and you're not getting anything. So I consider the mandated positions all constitutional officer departments. So that's the sheriff, treasurer, commissioner, clerk of the circuit court, and the Commonwealth attorney. So in that 5% of that's $231,528. There's a mandated increase for the registrar is $21,232. That's statewide. The General Assembly's adopted registrars to be paid at the base rate of a treasurer for the county that they work in. So that's the formula for the treasurer is now the formula for the registrar. What I don't know is how much of that we're getting funded. Even VACO doesn't know that yet. The registrar doesn't know that yet. VACO argued for 100%. The registrar has been paid at 100% before and not, down to 65%. So I don't know. So that may be covered, may not be local money, I don't know, but it is there. It's not anything the registrar asked for. It's been done statewide. Victim Witness is a grant-funded program, but that grant has upped that salary by $6,000. But I have to have these numbers in here because they're all in my spreadsheet. So the cost of the remaining, if you did everybody else, is $344,156. So that would be fire and rescue at 5%, county admin, finance, parks and rec, public works, everybody else. And that's full-time. The part-time, I'll have to work on that because we're already up in part-time to get them to the, we don't have many that are below the threshold, but there may be some that drop below the threshold in January 1. So we're already doing some work in the budget on part-time to meet with but anyway, this just full-time cost. So if you kind of took out the mandated sheriff's folks, the mandated SROs, the mandated animal control, and took out fire and rescue, that's a $236,000 deduction out of that $575,684. So that leaves the cost of the mandated less public safety of about $339,000.
And you're taking the less public safety out because of the raise we're proposing?
Yeah, because if we do the public safety scale, so you come down, what I'm trying,
That's, I mean, that's just a question, because
Right, so
if we do the scale,
if we do the
then
scale,
we're
then,
taking this out.
yeah,
Okay,
then
that's all.
the only mandated people then become all those other constitutional officers other than the sheriff's office and SROs and animal control. So then, if you did public safety and everybody 5%, you're looking at $895,854, or a total all-in with VRS and benefits of $1,042,226. But if you subtract out of that the total cost of public safety and the mandated, it really only, that's going to be $777,787. So where I showed you public safety earlier at $647,000 for the year on a previous sheet, you got to add in the rest of the mandated, the $21,000 a registrar and the victim witness that we're going to get money. We're getting revenue for that. So it's, so we're at $777,000, which means the remaining county employees not scheduled for any raise, the total cost is $264,438. So that's one of the decisions you have to make, is are you going to give public safety the scale, you're going to give mandated employees and then leave the rest of the county employees with nothing. Factor in the schools also are getting 5%.
The 264 number, we don't have.
Sorry, I zoomed it a little bit bigger so it's a little easier to read, kind of dropped off the bottom. So that's the cost to provide the remaining employees of 5%. And what I'm saying is, you'll be doing schools at 5%, public safety at greater than 5%, a mandated 5%, and then everybody else 0, to me seems when the cost of the everybody else is less than a penny. Now, I know we don't have any money. I get that. I understand that. I'm just, when you're looking at the comprehensive of this, I just wanted you to see that breakdown so that you would understand what that is in the scheme of things.
Basically looking at $1 million.
Yes.
And this is before 5% for schools.
Yes.
But didn't the
So
schools
the
just get
5%
approved today? Didn't that get approved today?
The schools got, I haven't got all those, I haven't gotten into all those numbers yet because they did, but they were mandated at 5% for SOQ.
Right.
You know,
back
so
to
there's
that.
always a bunch on the other side of the schools, just like here, when they mandate something, they leave out all kinds of folks. So we'd have to pick up all that.
Capital Connection, I don't know if anybody saw it. Yeah, they got,
It's about 1.3 million more than on that sheet that I saw today.
they got 5%, and it says that, we must provide 2% to pull the money down, something
Right.
like that, so.
Right, well, I'm sure we'll have to put that match in.
Does that mean, is that gonna mean we give 2% and the state gives 3, or we give 2 and the state gives 5?
I can't answer that.
Okay, because that's gonna be, it's the same thing for here.
Right, I don't know.
Remember, you have the other positions. We have to
That data
fund
just
that
hit, and I
5
hadn't had time to really work on that yet.
But
That was only SOQ.
That's a next
but
next
these are
day or
the same-
two,
it's the
probably.
same way here, because they're
Right.
funding just comp board people.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we give 5% for you and Jeff Seeley, because your comp board, me and Nancy don't get anything,
We have to
we're in the
pull you
same
full.
office.
Right.
So then you gotta
We
make
pull
up
you
our
full,
salary.
yeah.
Correct, and that's the same with the school. You got one teacher that's good, and the same teacher doing the same thing that the state just says we don't need.
That's why we need to know what 1% for them is and 1%
We asked that at
for
the
us
work
is.
session last week.
Right,
Mr.
it's the
Cole,
same here.
Chair, can I ask a question? Yes. Did we give our employees a raise last year? Didn't we postpone it?
We didn't give anything last year
That's
due
what I
to
thought.
the
Okay,
pandemic.
just double
We were
checking.
budgeting, trying to figure out a way to do one when the pandemic hit, and I
Yeah.
pulled all that out of the budget.
The other thing, this is based on July 1 raises?
Right
Or
now, yeah, this is all
December
based on July 1.
On July 1, okay.
Yeah, can you just get us the, that from what the state says as far as that SOQ information as quickly as possible, what it means, what it entails?
We will,
Yeah, yeah.
don't,
Right, okay.
As soon as we can, yes, sir. Yeah, that was just happening at the end of last week. We just started getting stuff from VACO, the comp board, and everybody on what they were doing, because the governor, I mean, it just approved last Thursday, I think.
Well, that's the stuff that's in that,
Right, and I sent it
capital
out. I
connection
sent it out
thing.
to
You sent out-
VACO.
yeah, we
Yeah,
just-
correct.
this
because
afternoon.
it's got the new comp board number, or the
Right,
the
it's got
comp
all that
board
too.
number in there for it.
And so currently, we were building the budget with a bunch of bonuses, because all the comp board, I mean, it was everybody, yeah, it was all the comp board positions had all these bonuses in there, which now they did away with that with the mandated 5%. So we're taking all that back out, so yeah, we're best laid plans.
I guess then my question is, so in terms of preliminary information you'll have for us at our
Yeah,
ninth
I'm
meeting?
hoping to, I'm still working to try to make a budget presentation next week. I will tell you, there's no way I'm gonna level fund and fund these things. So when we're in this year's budget, we funded it based on $955,000 from the detention center, along with about 200 and some thousand from reserve. So we're not balanced revenue to expenditures now. The Ladysmith Road payment was 100% financed, so that $2 million goes away, but so does finance, so it wasn't being paid for by taxes. So we're starting with any of these things, any new school money, any of these salary things, having to have a revenue for. Now, the per penny value is up to about 300 and something, low 300. So basically, you could take the tax rate to equalize to 70, 71. I got some little bit of math to finish up on which one that is. But I don't think even 5 cents covers this in the schools and debt service and things that we have to do. And that's what I haven't been able to finalize, so I don't want you to focus on that yet. If I say it might be 8 cents, it may be different by next week. I'm not finished. Yeah, I'm still cutting and chopping and working through all that, but there's clearly a need for revenue, or the only other place to get is a fund balance, and we know we can't keep going into the fund balance for ongoing operational expenditures.
Any other questions from
I
the
wish I
board?
could give you better news. I mean, we have some growth in revenues. Obviously, houses are being built and things like that. Sewer connection, water connections are up. So we'll be able to have a little bit better number in Joey's department for utilities and things, but it's not millions of dollars yet. You know, that big industry, $100 million warehouse hadn't gotten built, or data center hadn't gotten built. I mean, we don't have anything like that to tax. We certainly hope some things are going to be built and come online next year. We'll maybe start providing us some more sales tax and meals tax and all those kinds of things. But they may be a whole budget year off before we're really seeing anything from them. So I'd be scared to tell you that, we're going to just budget,
Yeah, and hope is not a strategy.
Yeah,
so
that doesn't pay for anything
it does
at
not.
the end
So
of the day.
we don't want to do hope. We want sound, okay. Any other questions from any other board members regarding the proposed 22 budget information that Mr. Cully presented?
This is the biggest hole, the biggest part.
Yep.
What
Understand.
we've got to do, what we've got to match for the schools, and what we've got to do that the state's put on us, and what's left, and then what needs to be done. I think, you can clearly see the data, what needs to be done on public safety.
Any questions? Yep. If there are no other
We didn't have anything else.
questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn, a proper second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned till March 9th.
Thank you, staff. Nice job.